Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to those of you who have been here this morning, and welcome to the ICA, those of you that just join us. I'm Stephen Cairns, Associate Curator of Artist Film and Moving Image at ICA, co-curator of Fear of Missing Out alongside Rosalie Dubal, who is our Associate Curator of Talks. I'm very, very pleased to introduce the first session in tonight's programme. We're going to have a performative lecture by Ashkan Sepahvand, which will just start very shortly. We've got a response from Helena Rickett, who's sitting in the front row here, and then we'll open for questions. After which we will have an introduction by Erica Balsam to Haroon Farooqi's films in the Serious Games series. There's a half an hour break, which we'll alert you to, obviously, when it begins and when you're supposed to be back, and after which there's a panel discussion chaired by Hito Steyerl alongside Linda Stupar, and taking part in the panel will be Erica Balsam, Oleski Radinsky, who presented this morning, Eleanor Saita, who you possibly just saw in the cinema, and Ashkan Sepahvand. So please join me in welcoming Ashkan to the stage. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you to everyone for coming this afternoon. I think the real fear of missing out is the sunshine out there. And thank you to the ICA and to Stephen and Rosalie and Hito for inviting me. So contrary to what it says in the little program leaflet you have, I will not be speaking about the technosexual reading circle, because it's kind of self-explanatory. It's a reading circle. That's all there is to say. But I will be presenting some work-in-progress experimental writing. So think of today as a type of live reading. And many of the conversations and the experiences that come from the gathering of this reading circle, which is just a bunch of friends who get together and read stuff about sex and technology, has informed this writing. So I'm going to get straight into that, but first I want to play 3 videos for you that simply just act as a type of, let's say, atmospheric prelude. The 3 videos are, well, there's 2 music videos. One is from Michael Ozone, Perfect Systems, and then there's the music video for the track Mission Statement by Diamond Version. And the 3rd video is entitled Yes to Life, and it's by Louisa Minkin. And after that, I will read. Everything I know about techno-capitalism, I learned at Berghain. Ecstasy, speed, intoxication, the supplement, the self, ritual, endurance, exhaustion, mimesis, metamorphosis, hallucination, dissociation, awakening, connection, alienation, loneliness, community, monsters, hunger, pain, struggle, exercise, spasms, convulsions, body cults, electric skin, insatiable lust, unfulfilled desire, searching, more, more, more. Work it. Work for your pleasure. Work for your fun. Work on yourself. Be yourself. Express yourself. Lose yourself. Be happy. Be horny. More, more, more. When ravers turn into nurses, collapse, blackout, K-hole, soul machines, bodies without organs, organs without bodies. What can a body do? Mirror worlds, information, voodoo, club kids, trust funds, social welfare, spontaneous gifts, sharing is caring, energy, economics, sweat, pee, pharmacology, pornography, all the letters of the alphabet, the imagination, the matrix, psychosis, depression, move your body, relax your soul, codes, more codes, asignifications, no meaning, no mediation, E, X, T, C, K, L, S, D, M, A, 2, C, B, G, No break between gesture, speech, music, dancing, war, men, gods, the sexes, apocalypse, vision, the future, the past, the new way of the world, experimentation, pleasure, performance, apparatus, strength, weakness, ethics, automation, speciation, disembodied consciousness, chaosmosis, just rhythm, just noise, more, more, more. Never enough. It's never enough. Boom, 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 za, za, za. This is an autobiographical science fiction. It all begins with being together. It ends with a question. What is the future of the species? What are we becoming? The opening lines hit me like lightning when I was walking down the street this past winter. Now that Anthropos has irreversibly executed its upgrade installation, it seems appropriate to spit out the pill and bite the bullet. Cosmos likes death so much, you're gonna get lubed up right, she said. That echoes in my ear, along with, enjoy it. The first thing I heard before I fell backwards onto the floor. For a few minutes, or a few years, for a duration I'd best describe as compressed, crooked, and deeply encoded, I understood myself to be in Mount Grove. I'm not sure if I ever wasn't there, or if I've ever left. It's just that everything, the upgrade, the transformation, the evolutionary leap, the civilizational emergence, the fate of the intermorphs, everything happens in Mount Grove, slower, faster, faster, slower. It is a bloated point in time and the heaviest heaviness in space. It's where what is already taking place has taken place before any of us are able to say or to sense what will take place. What I have done is compose an ethnography, or to put it more precisely, an entheography of the future. A future which I realized bears no direction. It neither comes to us, nor do we go to it. It has always been, and so these mysteries, my stories, are archaic, indeed epic, as if cosmic cavemen were to sing cyborg songs. On January 3rd, around 1 a.m., the music stopped. The floor lights turned on. Looking around, you would swear the scene was the aftermath of a disaster. White-faced hungry ghosts, animated machines, bodies on auto drive, the dancing plague, don't stop till you drop. We looked into each other's eyes with confusion. We gnashed our teeth. Is it over? Is it the end? Is it time? We don't want to leave. We want to die here. How sublime would it be to die here, gathered together in our collective solitude? I know what you're thinking, you Swedish girl. Your tits hanging out of your shirt, your neck raised up in wonder at the machinic sky. Our happiness is a platform and a horizon. In the beginning, everything was human. In the beginning, substance ate substance. There was a primordial cannibalism. And then the end came, the world drew to a close, the sky fell, and from this collapse, the varieties of speciation took place. Suddenly, there were forests, rivers, stars, men, and minerals. It was a mindfuck, just a little DJ trick. In that moment of utter despair, an announcement came. The 4 horsemen mounted on top of the steed Silver Blazer, part peptide, part unicorn, blew their horns loud and clear. They had arrived to deliver the code. And then came a voice from the heavens. With the blessings of Allah, Almighty God, the creator of heaven and earth, master of all living things, visible and invisible, we bring you this music. We call it the only kind of music that makes you move closer and closer to yourself. To yourself. Paralyzed, I looked at the Swedish girl in front of me. Her back was to me now. As the reverberating silence cleared, as the bass began its dull thud, slow and deep, gently accelerating, as the lights began to flash a cold blue, as the soul machines began to move again, weakly stomping their feet on the concrete floor like soldiers marching to their death in the desert of the real, as the voice of the Father continued echoing throughout the room, the girl suddenly turned around. Her face was a joker's grin. She had a necklace of skulls hanging from her neck, and her boobs were spewing out torrents of neon pink plasma blood. She lunged towards me and shouted with her raspy man-woman voice, "This is hardcore trance." And then the refrain, "Move your body, move your body, move your body, move your body, relax your body, relax your body, relax your body, relax your soul, move your body." Each time the sky falls, a process of sedimentation begins, a constant mixing of this and that, of bodies and souls intermingling, in which human entities transform, shapeshift, jump from nature to nature, some appearing as spirits, others as energies. In this post-cataclysmic state, a process of catastrophic transubstantiation occurs. Beings come into presence. They differentiate, they variate, they diversify, inhabiting this cosmos with a fullness of possible shapes and colors. Regardless of form, these beings all remain human. A man becomes a woman, becomes a plant, becomes a jaguar, becomes a machine, becomes a beat, becomes a code, becomes a particle. That was when my dreaming began. The cosmology of the club, where we practice techno-capital, where we experiment with the coming into presence of beings, where we strive towards an ambiguous future for ourselves, our bodies, our souls, where the species is undergoing transition. Will we become beings of pure joy, accumulations of pleasure entangled with pleasure, like water within water? Or will we become slaves to the happiness imperative, indentured servants to the imagination industry, administrators of the sameness project, the world, the flesh, the devil? We are the intermorphs. We are a form in between. We are not yet, or just yet, or maybe yet. They gathered around the toilet bowl. Their arms reached up to the artificial yellow sky. The feeding ritual was about to begin. They wrapped their limbs around one another to hold on. It was slippery amidst all those greasy, shiny, metallic bodies. A many-headed hydra, each ferocious skull swinging back, frothing at the mouth, tongues extended. Their stomach was one, their body a mutation, a convenient, symbiotic fusion of little people in a big person. One of them ascended, stepping up onto the toilet, turning around to see his nest of baby birds squeaking and clucking, beaks gaping, waiting for worms. "Feed me!" It began to snow in the toilet. Then it rained. Such a density of respiration within this limited space is bound to create its own microclimate. Insects never die. Cockroaches will live on long after the nuclear apocalypse. We spat into each other's mouths, chewed each other's saliva. We licked the salty onion sweat from underneath one another's armpits. We gurgled up the sugar spit tonic from the one bottle being passed around. We drank the voodoo drops. This was how we spoke to one another, as insect birds, a colony of ants building a home underneath the dirt. We bathed in honey, which is nothing more than bee vomit, regurgitated waste, an acidic kiss. Our mouth language was a wet language, our body language a sweat language. In each droplet of moisture, a hormone, a coded command, an intuitive jab, a jerk, an arousal, a chase. The queen shat royal jelly into our mouths. She nurtured each and every one of us into creation as little slaves to her luscious pussy, addicted to her juices, secretly dreaming of stealing her bottle. In many ways, the intermorph is very real. The way HD animations appear real, or the way in which a sci-fi humanoid clone responds viscerally to pain or pleasure, even though it does not feel any. And in many ways, the intermorph is not there yet. It exists only as possible associations, certain situations, forms of life, and practices culled from everyday encounters and states of mind, all of which give the impression of its emergent properties, though these floating fragments, these temporary visions of an intermorph coming into presence, have not yet merged together to compose a full entity. The intermorph, as a possible future of the species, is a trans form, a missing link between us today, tomorrow. Transition is all around. The environment is transitioning, technology is transitioning, Bruce Jenner is transitioning. So what would make a species as a whole immune from transition? A transition from within itself, as a response to our techno-capitalist form of life, as an incorporation of the world, as a change in the body-mind apparatus. No, the intermorph doesn't have 3 eyes. It's not taller or shorter. It's not hairless or any more or less athletic than an average specimen of the species Homo in 2015. It is not smarter or stupider. It doesn't have telepathy or superpowers. It hasn't tapped into the however many % of unused brain capacity like Lucy did. The intermorph's adaptation, the qualities revealed through its transition, are not physical. In fact, an intermorph looks and acts exactly like we do. The only difference is, or rather, a difference that is not so different, a difference that is already quite familiar, that many of us know very well, is that an intermorph's imagination has transformed fully into a technical object. An intermorph has flesh, has body, has mind, has consciousness. An intermorph is born and dies. An intermorph carries with it all the genes that make up our DNA. However, an intermorph has access to a way of being in the world in which its perceptions, sensations, and activities are all the product of code. An intermorph is a human biocomputer with access to an open source code it can use to decode and recode experiences, and is able to share and exchange this richly textured information with other users, modifying it, re-experiencing it. An intermorph experiences its environment as a set of spatial formats. It is able to model consciousness as matter, to operate its imagination as a refined technology, to launch platforms upon which it can posit relations, generate velocity, and occupy space. Space is necessary, a ground where compositions may be assembled. What can the imagination do? An intermorph imagines machines as androids dream of electric sheep. An intermorph doesn't need its body. It only needs to experience the pleasure of its own imagination. Its experiences are all generated by operating the imagination. Because the world of the intermorph is one of code, because the labor of the intermorph is the production of possibles, because its life is dedicated to the desire for sight and sound, for limitless sensation, because its reality is a technically supplemented hallucination, because an intermorph finds depth along surfaces. His dissolved self becomes another, dance of amour and psyche, metal dough, sensual body, etheric passion, split and glowing. So it beat. Back to the club, where the intermorph stands beyond dawn and dusk, beyond night and day, beyond good and evil. So many forms of presence populate this contemporary leisure platform. all these interstitial beings, all these techno-mutations, all these ontic simulations. A boy and a girl kneeling down, dancing like crabs, passing back and forth a container of lip balm, creaming their lips, nostrils, ears, eyes, and hands, the embalmers, sealing the sense organs, lubricating the apparatus, greasing the claws. The bioluminescent deep-sea creatures perched on top of the speakers, the light dancers engaging in a hypnosis ritual, a circle of plastic people worshiping them. They eat light, they breathe light, they are filled with light, a cold light, a dark light. Behind the urinals, the dimension of shadows, trapped soul doubles immersed in metallic hydrogen. The language of stone, leather, metal, of hair growing, of skin sweating. Everything has a language, though it is not always words. Everything is making noise. The world is noisy. Schizophrenia is the purest state of perception, degree 0, no filter. Everything appears crooked, like a compacted plane, slightly awry. Everything seems old and new at once, a leaky time slip, a temporal Ouroboros. This is what tomorrow brings yesterday, archaeofuturism, when the most unimaginably distant future appears as the most ancient past, when Mohenjo-Daro returns from Saturn, when the Aztecs reappear as intergalactic warriors, when indigenous jungle tribes teletransport through wormholes, jumping from star to star, when Sun Ra, donned in Egyptian garb, lands in Oakland with his spaceship, speaks in music, and the world listens. The cyberscreen grid between a black leather wedge and a curved concrete wall, a holographic display as you lay down to take a rest. We see a man. His name is Hugundu. He is wandering a desert in an old pickup truck, desperately in need of an oil change. These days, the land is being pulled out from underneath his feet. Minerals, resources, computer chips, silicon, a digital world stick, moving the center. His car broke down. He had 4 liters of water on him and a bag full of day-old sandwiches. Would he have to walk? He pulled out his global positioning device. He threw it against a rock. The black mirror shattered. He cut the satellite umbilical cord that connected his ear to the cosmic microwave radiation background. No more binary signals. Now, only dust, only the wasteland. He began to dream. Was it sunstroke? Techno-totem animals, a robotic dingo, techno-didgeridoo. He's sweating. He's thirsty. Ethnographic accounts from the total frontier. Reporting live from the Pleasure Dome. Breaking news from La La Land. Club Kultur Wissenschaft. All these narcissistic borderliners lost in the field. All these border workers laboring at the edge of imagination. Mind-expanding self-experimentation. Techniques for becoming imperceptible. Memories of a recreational drug user. Machinic enslavement. In 1984, the year I was born, the year of Orwell's future, it was said by many that the crisis of the West was the crisis of subjectivity. Fortunately, the rest of the globe has to deal with the shit the West gets itself into. Everywhere we look, humanity appears to be the product of something other, untied from the species, a total mobilization of anthropos. We are now otherwise to ourselves, a dissociated state, an out-of-body space, a K-hole awakening, geopsychosis. A territory beyond the market, the prompt for an excellent story in which the intermorphs play a central role. There is war being raged, a war against war, a war that aims to exterminate beings capable of love. Instead, they are offered infinite pleasure. Here goes. In a near future, perhaps already now, perhaps long gone, a corporation named Queer Tech enters the market, dramatically changing the rules of the game. QueerTech Incorporated is a decentralized autonomous organization committed, in its own words, to the creation of optimized subjective experiences. To address this, QueerTech brings together a diverse team of collaborators to systematically and comprehensively tackle the necessity for a universal mastery of creativity, technology. The aim is to intensify consciousness. QueerTech offers a line of open source supplements and services. It has registered these as Uber materials. QueerTech works at the cutting edge total frontier of the molecular revolution in soft machine technology, code development, mobile idea production, life form experimentation, and perceptronium modeling. Its mission statement is, we invest in the future of the species. What does QueerTech want? I can't say. QueerTech is responding to demand, to what people want, what you and I want, to feel good, to look good, to have it good as much as possible, as long as possible. We're tired of this whole desire as lack thing, this vicious circle of need, want, consume, more, not enough, unfulfilled, insatiable, more again. We want permanent happiness. We want serenity now. We want pure joy. Yes to sentience. Yes to life. The most breathtaking fact about the world today is that they have convinced each and every one of us that when we are unhappy, it is something we need to work on and fix inside ourselves, and not that there is something to be unhappy about in the world. Change your mindset. Change the way you think. Change the way you see, hear, and sense. Change the apparatus. This is where QueerTech comes in, delivering a simple, revolutionary message. We must rely on nanobiotechnologies, neurotechnotransmitters, and electronic intrapsychic entities. We must dream in code. Replace the letter C with a K each and every time. Or else, if you're into combining a bit of pep with a bit of plop, the equation yields CK1, classy 90s, love parade, ravers smell so good, alkaline and salty, a silver crystal, a nasal implant, a multimedia protocol, vision machines. Science is cosmogrammatical. It writes and captures worlds, operating as a material discursive practice of bodily production. A friend wrote me today. He's a scientist. Hey, a friend of mine is coming this weekend from San Francisco. First time in Berlin, first time in Berghain. He seems to be my energetic counterpart. He's just the opposite of me, and we can do incredible things together. Since I've been working with him, things have really skyrocketed. Can't wait to show you, especially at Berghain. That place is like a plutonic catalyst, a magnetic field that amplifies all alchemical processes, a spaceport. It truly is a magical place. Did you know that the Earth's structural heart chakra is in Berlin? There's a lot of bad karma and brokenheartedness to mend. The Jews and the Germans, East and West. And I honestly believe it's right under Berghain. It's not at all a coincidence. The intermorphs are an ambiguous experimental form of life, a latent potentiality within the species that QueerTech wishes to actualize. The intermorphs exhibit the animistic transformation of techno-capital. QueerTech has long researched the ways in which embodied selves interact with meaning-making technologies, the ways in which bodies merge with codes to generate expression, affect, interactivity, and instantaneity. The intermorph is a new model of intersubjectivity launched by QueerTech, whose individuality has been dismantled through an assemblage of machines. The range of Uber material supplements and services offered by QueerTech centers around its patented code biogenetic design software. The code upgrade version 1.1 is a biocompatible incorporation and application of code into a human user. Installation of the upgrade overcodes the user's personal biocomputer with a technomorphic code experience generator environmental matrix, resulting in the ontological mutation of the user into an intermorph. This is, in QueerTech's own words, a textured enhancement of anthropic nature towards maximized evolutionary potentiality. Science transforms matter into decoded flows. What QueerTech offers is a consolidation and a commodification of a system within which numerous human and non-human elements interact, and the component parts of all can be expressed in terms of information. QueerTech rids us of ourselves, finally. Instead, QueerTech offers us space. Mount Grove is a quantum intrapsychic environment where code can be altered. Kafka's America, where one goes to disappear. A space to take on abstract perspectives, multi-natural perspectivism. A pyramid replicates a mountain, a concrete floor replicates a grove. Spatial signatures between environments, the world in small, the imagination of worlds, the practice of worlding. Space is an oracle. There, it is always night, and there are fountains of stone, and the happiness of that paradise is the special happiness of farewells, of renunciation, and of those who know that they are sleeping. Inscribed upon its Stargate portal, the counter-dictum to the infamous Apollonian command, not tisse auton, there is no self to know. There is no self, an aphorism instead. We have no knowledge but what has been built up by pleasure and exists in us by pleasure alone. The nighttime healing sessions that take place within the mind's eye of the temple require sacrifice. Humans survive on stolen time. Substance must be offered in retribution for time theft, bloodletting, fluid exchange, giving up one's soul, offering the self. When I close my eyes, I see my heart eating your heart. Our spines turn inside out, our bone marrow gushes forth as a fountain. You and I have turned into snakes. We are entering the chamber of cannibal rites. We consume one another and wrap into a ball, a cosmic egg. It turns neon purple. It hollows out, and from inside, light plasma goo drips out, flooding the egg with puddles of fluorescence. The space is all of a sudden empty again, pure white. A home appears. The space ape sings the ballad of the intermorphs. Woken by the spirits of a new life dawning, are we dreaming? Decode the cipher, intercept reception, we are learning. Feeding is function, so the heart beats stronger. She is breathing. Physically drained, but we alleviate the hunger. We are creator. Wrestling with our fears like the unknown soldier. We are vanity. Separate the demon from the devil inside. Is this insanity? Nerves bound taut by the frequent recollections. We are reasoning. Caught between a chance and a realization, stop us deceiving. Parasitical nature is the human savior and the limitation. Fumbling and fussing as we fake behavior in the mutation. Hand in mouth, we know the journey was hard. We are soothing. Sleep is the cure for our next generation. We are hoping. Beyond our fighting with the earth, a kind of solace is found. Can you hear me? Between these intimate strangers, biologically bound, is this the future? Our expression of love is like an infinite glance. Will it kill me? Unlocking the code is our only chance. Do you believe me? Can you hear me? For queer tech, once we have installed the upgrade, we no longer constitute selves. We are merely an intensified personological consciousness, acting as points of conjunction and disjunction along a spectrum of animation. Code connects an organ, a system of perception, and intellectual activity directly to a machine, bypassing the representation of a subject altogether. Neither discourse nor narrative is produced. How will we live then without stories? What does it mean to no longer have a body? How will we experience this new sense of a world in which neither you nor I exist, where the only reality is that composite body of all our common pleasures? The cumulative effect of this scenario would give one the sense that they have finally succeeded in producing consciousness, in producing body as waste, as inert and cumbersome mass. Another friend who was there with me that night wrote a poem a week later. He titled it, Monotono Technotrans. I see it as an example of a yet-to-be-written intermorph literary tradition, for some will become aware, and those some will then henceforth be known as magicians, and they will write, they will announce, they will denounce, they will fight for the code, they will attempt to rewrite it. Take over the means of psychic production, revolution in the bodies, throughout the bodies, of the bodies, rewiring themselves, binding thoughts in new stories, series, stacks, holographic, chemic, synthetic, thermic, orgasmic, emotional pattern regrouped, energy levels rise. The plane of perfection hydrates perception, all new in an eternal axis of now. The balance, the pivot, beat, 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 head, mind, inner eye, head, high, inner eye, better eye to perceive better, stronger feet to proceed better. It's better than ether, said the beat. I read it, I ate it. Cannibal thoughts often occur in delirious subjects triggered by substances of sensual programmation developed in the direction of fusing those bodies disfigured in the paralytic love dance of soul cripples. In response, I wrote him a letter. They will get rid of the body. They will give us more pleasure than we have ever known, and yet they do not offer us love. It's not part of the deal. It's not necessary for survival. In fact, it's suboptimal, causing more humanoid confusion than machinic clarity. It's nowhere to be found in the range of queer tech Uber materials, neither as a supplement nor a service. What if an intermorph were to suddenly remember? What if the code were to crack or to be hacked and reveal a pattern of information the algorithms do not account for? I press so firmly against you because I have no sense of balance, and I'm afraid I cannot walk alone properly anymore, but also because I love touching your big, hard body, so giant, so strong, so safe. I cannot see anything anymore. It feels like my head has been squeezed under such immense pressure, as if our atmosphere has been replaced by heavy metals, amplified magnitudes. I feel only pressure, the pressure of my head, mind, inner eye, the pressure of your chest against my chin, the pressure of my hands digging into your back, the gravity of my desire towards you, for you, upon you, on you. I do not see or know your body. I do not see or know my body. I do not know how I am touching. I am not directing the force of my grip. I'm not aware of the shape and appearance of our physical entanglement. I only comprehend your quality, which is solid, firm, and strong. Partially a sensation, partially a belief. I believe you are strong. I take on the point of view from the inside of your small intestine. My third eye sees this abstract perspective opening up from the blackness of its diamond point singularity, and once my consciousness recognizes within this window of opportunity the chance to reclaim a spatial format, a corporeality, a plane of consistency, and a possible geometry, It seizes upon the view and assumes the abstract terms and conditions necessary for reconfiguring a sense for itself, reincorporating into a simulated physical container. Now, I am an entity who happens to move and see the world as an eye upon a corner somewhere along the countless kilometers of your intestinal tract. The numerous cilia are in the way, obstructing my vision, horrific little tentacular protrusions, hairy little fingers vigorously swimming against your murky digestive fluids. Am I a microbe, all of a sudden conscious of its endosymbiotic habitat? Are we having bacterial sex, transferring information horizontally? I'm getting smaller and smaller. Am I a protein, a carbohydrate, a DNA molecule, suddenly aware of my existence as biogenetic information? Am I a virus? Have you eaten me? Are you eating me? Will I be digested? Have I infected you? Is this irreversible? Will I merge with your code? Will you replicate me? I feel a deep psychological pain, a kind of perception constipation. I want my body back. I didn't want to see this, even though I wanted to see everything, to see all of you. I see teeth gnashing, I see eyes blinking. It's hard to chew. There's a struggle to move and to be at ease. I'm having difficulty accepting this metamorphosis. The realization struck me. Consciousness is not a wave of energy. It is not a force possessing mind and animating the body. Consciousness has organs. It is material. There is no separation. We are on our way to becoming human. Start position number 1. The first step is an experience of body photism, or illumination. This leads to the second experience, the weakening of the body in an absorptive manner. At this stage, you may feel an intensification of thoughts and the imagination. Suddenly, you are filled with fear and trembling, and you shall feel another spirit awakening within yourself and strengthening you and passing over your entire body and giving you pleasure. When you have reached your destination, you see a human form. The prophet suddenly sees the shape of his self standing before him, and he forgets his self, and it is disengaged from him, and he sees the shape of his self before him, talking to him and predicting the future. Not ego loss, but ego projection. The knowledge, the known, the knower, all bound together. Let us call this a magic of inwardness. There are radical consequences for undertaking the techniques of ecstasy, the paths of loneliness, and the preliminaries of adhesion. A science of combining words and sounds, letters and notes, language and music, the beat and the bass, the boom and the bam, to become meta, to unlock the state of the self to self, to confront you, me, with me, you, means to alter the apparatus forever. Sex magic, or how to work. We woke up next to each other. We were upstairs in the smoker's lounge, lying down flat on the metal grating. We had lifted up our legs and stretched them against the wall. Were we gazing at our dingy sneakers? Were we admiring our bruised legs? Mounting the Schwarzgerät, revving up the engines, resting our bloated feet, and letting the blood and lymph and water drain back down to the core, to nourish the coiled serpent, to replenish the seat of the passions. I turned my head to look at him, squinting one eye. We just had sex, didn't we?
Yeah, we're slightly running behind schedule, but I think we have a respondent in the front row, Helena Rickett, who hopefully can share some words with us. If anyone has any questions, you're going to have to hold on to them until the panel discussion, so either write them down or keep them in your mind. Helena.
Well, that was amazing. And I hadn't actually had a chance to read anything before, so what I'm going to say is just really just sort of thoughts, responses. So this was this kind of hallucinatory sort of hall of mirrors you're presenting, quite terrifying, with this kind of fantasy of mutability and immersion, connectivity. It's sort of, in a way, everything we want, but it's all gone horribly wrong, and it's this kind of rhetoric, yes, of blending and pleasure, but it's against a backdrop where we know that that is a fiction, and there's increased, as we know, surveillance and constraint and border control. So it's this, and you know, starting with that Call Me Maybe sort of viral, was it Marines juxtaposed with a swim team, US swim team? I mean,
no, it's the Miami Dolphin cheerleaders.
Miami Dolphin.
The US Marines based in Kandahar, Afghanistan.
Right.
Is Louisa here, by the way?
Oh,
can you stand up?
Really brilliant. So, I mean, there's so much, you know, that would be lovely to talk about, and I'm sure we will later. And this whole question about how is intimacy possible? And, you know, how is intimacy, or how or where is intimacy possible? And then ending with this idea that, you know, almost nostalgically, you know, people are still having sex sort of somewhere, maybe. And questions that have come up over the last couple of days about sort of the possibility of finding certain ways of being safe in our connected worlds, and the idea of, let's say, a VPN as a condom, and kind of where are these spaces of possible prophylactic safety. So all really fascinating. The one thing I just wanted to sort of ask you about, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but I was very interested in the idea that this sort of dystopian corporation is queer tech, because we've kind of internalized the idea that queer is good. So I sort of just wanted to sort of pick up on that. Of course, queer is not always good. And what is queer doing in this story?
Well, it's not necessarily, it's neither good nor bad. I mean, the whole position here is very purposefully ambiguous and ambivalent, the same way that technology and contemporary conditions are also ambiguous and ambivalent. Just to say that I'm pronouncing it queer tech, but it's spelled Queertek. So actually you would pronounce it quertech, and that comes from a little word play, because in German, quer means transversal or diagonal, or kind of cutting across. So it's just a little word play on queer and transversal and weird, but also, yeah, this thing where, do we want what they're offering? Yeah, I leave it very open, and I haven't really figured it out myself yet.
I think that's, I mean, I'm just going to leave it there, but thank you for that.
Yeah, you got it.
And to all the amazing makers whose videos you included. Really exciting.
Thank you, Helena. So we're going to have a slight scene change. It'll take maybe 30 seconds, and then I'm going to invite Erica Balsam to introduce her in Rocky's films.
Thank you.